Hello and welcome back. Today you are going to learn English through a powerful story about a man who lost everything because he talked too much until one silent habit saved his life. Listening to stories is the fastest way to master new English vocabulary and improve your pronunciation naturally. To get the best results from this lesson, use the shadowing technique. Listen carefully to each short sentence. Then, pause the video and repeat the words aloud exactly as you hear them. Pay close attention today. A mysterious challenge in this story will test if you are really listening. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Loudest Man in the Room. David was a man who loved his own voice. He worked in a large, busy office in the city. Every morning, David walked into the building talking loudly. He talked about his breakfast. He talked about his car. He talked about his big plans for the future. David thought he was the smartest person in the company. When other people spoke, David did not listen. He only waited for his turn to speak again. If a colleague shared an idea, David interrupted them. "I already know that," David would say. "My idea is much better," he would shout. His colleagues began to step away when they saw him coming. They stopped sitting with him during lunch. They stopped inviting him to important meetings. David noticed this, but he was too proud to care. "They are just jealous of me," David told himself every night. He did not realize that his loud mouth was slowly destroying his career. Chapter 2. The Terrible Mistake. One Tuesday morning, the company owner called a critical meeting. The owner was an old wise man named Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison rarely spoke, but when he did, everyone listened. The company was losing a lot of money on a major project. Mr. Harrison stood in front of the team. "We have a serious problem," Mr. Harrison said quietly. "I need your advice. What should we do?" Before anyone else could answer, David raised his voice. He stood up quickly and began to speak loudly. "I know exactly how to fix this," David declared proudly. He talked for 10 minutes without stopping. He explained his complex plan with big loud words. He did not look at Mr. Harrison's face. He did not notice that Mr. Harrison was shaking his head slowly. When David finally stopped talking, the room was completely silent. Mr. Harrison looked directly into David's eyes. "David, you talked for 10 minutes," Mr. Harrison said calmly, "but you did not answer my question at all. You did not listen to the instructions I sent yesterday. Because you were so busy talking, you made a mistake that cost us $10,000. David felt his face turn burning hot. His heart pounded wildly in his chest. "Pack your desk, David," Mr. Harrison said softly. "You are fired." Chapter 3. The old wise teacher David walked out of the building in total shock. He held a heavy cardboard box containing his things. He could not believe what had just happened. He had lost his job, his income, and his confidence in 5 minutes. David walked aimlessly down the cold city streets. It began to rain heavily, but he did not care. He sat down on a wet bench in a small, quiet park. He put his head in his hands and began to cry quietly. "Why does nobody understand me?" he whispered to himself. "Because you never listen to them," a voice said. David looked up quickly. Sitting next to him on the bench was an elderly man with kind, bright eyes. The old man was holding a simple wooden cup filled with warm tea. His name was Master Thomas, a retired teacher who spent his days in the park. "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth," Master Thomas said with a gentle smile. "Do you know why that is?" David shook his head silently. "It means you should listen twice as much as you speak," the old man explained. "When you speak, You only repeat what you already know. When you listen, you learn something completely new. David looked at his wet shoes. For the first time in his life, he had no words to say. I lost my job today, David admitted softly. Then today is your lucky day, Master Thomas replied. If you want to change your life, accept my 7-day challenge. Chapter 4. The 7-Day Silence Challenge. David looked at the old teacher with confusion. What is the challenge? David asked. For 7 full days, you must not speak unless someone asks you a direct question, Master Thomas said. You must listen to everyone around you. You must write what you learn in a small notebook every single evening. If you complete this challenge, I will introduce you to a friend who is a hiring manager. David was desperate for a new job. He accepted the challenge immediately. On day 1, David went to a local coffee shop. Usually, he would complain loudly about the slow service. This time, he stayed silent. He watched the young worker behind the counter. He noticed the worker was rushing, sweating, and trying her best. He realized she was working alone during the busiest hour. Instead of getting angry, David smiled warmly when she handed him his coffee. Thank you, David said softly. The young worker looked surprised and smiled back with deep relief. David opened his small notebook and wrote, People are usually doing their best. Be patient. Chapter 5. Listening to the World. On day 3, David visited his old mother. Usually when he visited her, he talked about his problems the whole time. He never asked how she was feeling. This time, David sat quietly on the sofa. He made a fresh pot of tea and sat down next to her. How are you doing today, Mom? David asked gently. His mother looked shocked. Then she began to talk. She talked about her lonely weekends. She talked about her old garden plants. She talked about her favorite childhood memories. David just sat there, nodding his head and listening intently. He saw tears of joy form in his mother's eyes. She held his hand tightly at the end of the visit. Thank you for visiting me, David, she said. This was the best afternoon we have had in years. David walked home in silence. He realized that listening was not just a skill. Listening was an act of love and respect. He opened his notebook and wrote, Listening builds a bridge between hearts. Chapter 6. The Mysterious Meeting. On day 7, the challenge was finally complete. David met Master Thomas in the quiet park again. David looked completely different. His face was calm, his eyes were clear, and his mind was peaceful. He handed his small notebook to Master Thomas. The old teacher read every page slowly, smiling to himself. You have learned well, my young friend, Master Thomas said. Now it is time for your reward. Master Thomas led David to a tall glass building near the park center. They took the elevator up to the top floor. They walked into a beautiful, quiet executive office. A woman sat at a dark wooden desk, looking through important financial documents. When she turned around, David froze in shock. It was Miss Clara, the main competitor of his old boss, Mr. Harrison. Welcome, David, Miss Clara said with a warm smile. Master Thomas told me everything about your week. Our company is looking for a new operations director. We do not need another loud manager who shouts orders. We need someone who can observe problems, listen to employees, and learn quickly. David took a deep breath. He did not boast about his skills. He did not speak loudly or make wild promises. He listened to Miss Clara explain the company's biggest challenges. When she finished, David answered in 3 clear, simple, and honest sentences. Miss Clara smiled broadly and stood up to shake his hand. You are hired, David, she said. David had earned a better job, higher pay, and total respect, all by choosing to speak less. David learned that true strength does not come from making noise. True wisdom comes from observing the world, respecting others, and listening with an open heart. When you speak less, you give yourself the valuable opportunity to learn more. Now, it is your turn to practice your English. Did you enjoy this story? Replay this video from the beginning. Pause after every short sentence and shadow the voiceover out loud. Repeat the words until your pronunciation feels smooth, natural, and confident. Tell me in the comments below. Do you prefer talking or listening? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep practicing every day. See you in our next story.